Good morning, students. Welcome to Good Samaritan School online classes. And today we are going to learn a new topic. What happens to an acid or a base in a water solution? And just a recap of what we learned yesterday. We learned about how acids and bases and what is the common between acids and bases. And there we learned acids and bases when they mixed with in a solution, acids produce H plus ions and base produce OH negative ions, and also they conduct electricity, right? But it is not takes place in alcohol and the glucose solution, and the reason also we learned yesterday. Okay, let's start a new topic. What happens to an acid or a base in a water solution? To learn this, we are going to see an activity. Activity 2.9, which is given in your book. Okay, first let's see the activity and then come back. Okay, I want everyone to take a book, turn to page 23 in your book and read out the activity properly. If you read the activity, you can understand maximum of this topic clearly. Okay, you should take, I just want to summarize what is actually given in this activity. You should take 1 gram of sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is a common salt you have in your home. And then this is the sodium chloride is in the test tube, and you should add concentrated sulfuric acid. Whenever I told you already also, but again I am telling you, whenever you are adding concentrated sulfuric acid into any test tube or a beaker, you should always add on the sides of the test tube. Okay, you can look at this picture, you are adding at the sides of the test tube. Clear? So first take a salt in a test tube, and then salt, sodium chloride, and then sulfuric acid concentrated into the test tube. And what do you observe? You will observe there is a gas is coming out from the test tube. So what we do is we pass that gas into a litmus paper. Okay, and the very important thing is we should take always a wet litmus paper. You can try with both litmus paper, either blue or red, but it shows the color change only in the blue litmus paper. The reason is the gas coming out is the acidic gas. Okay, what happens? In which case does litmus paper changes color? Yes, on the basis of the above activity, we are going to infer or we are going to conclude about the acidic character of dry hydrochloric acid and hydrochloric acid solution. Okay, so this is the activity. What is the activity talks about? We should take sulfuric acid, the concentrated sulfuric acid, and that pour that sulfuric acid into sodium chloride sodium chloride salt. What happens? We are going to get hydrochloric acid, and that is comes out as a gas. And then the salt formed here is sodium hydrogen sulfate. So you need to read the activity clearly. See here we have added 1 gram of solid sodium chloride. Okay, if we add more, that means in sodium chloride, if I take more sodium chloride, that means more than 1 gram, this excess or more sodium chloride, this I have added less, then we are going to have the same product as hydrochloric acid comes out as a gas, but here it won't form sodium hydrogen sulfate, it form sodium sulfate, Na2SO4. Okay, but this is not the matter. We are going to talk about only this. The gas coming out is a hydrochloric acid. And how can you test the gas coming out as an hydrochloric acid? For that only, they have taken a blue litmus paper, wet with a water. Take a blue litmus paper and just put some water in that, and then keep it on the mouth of the test tube where the gas is coming out. And soon you can see that the dry hydrochloric acid which is coming out from the test tube react with moist litmus paper, blue litmus paper, and changes the color from blue to red color. The question arises, why we should moist the blue litmus paper? Why? This experiment, the answer is given in your book itself. You can look at that below the activity. This experiment suggests that hydrogen ions in hydrochloric acid, if you see that always all the acids, even it's a hydrochloric acid or a sulfuric acid, they all have H plus ion. Okay. So, the hydrogen ion which is present in the hydrochloric acid produced in the presence of water. Always whenever hydrochloric acid, the hydrogen ions, when it comes out, only this is react with water. When you pour it in a water, then only this H plus ion comes out. That you have to keep it in your mind. So, from this experiment, we can understand that when hydrochloric acid react with water, it produces hydronium ion. Hydronium ion or H plus ion. Okay. This is the very important thing. So, hydrogen ions cannot exist alone because they cannot live alone. So, what they do? But they exist after combining with water molecules. So, you cannot see H plus ions always separately anywhere. But what they do? They combine with H2O and they form H3O plus ions. That is what hydronium ion. This is what formed here. Thus, hydrogen ions must always be shown as H plus aqueous, that means mixed with water, or hydronium ion H3O plus. Clear? Yes. I just want to repeat it once again. So, what happens here? We have taken a salt, sodium chloride salt in a test tube, and then adding concentrated sulfuric acid into that. We find an anhydrous hydrochloric acid gas is coming out. What is anhydrous? Anhydrous. Hydrous, that means they consist of water molecules. Okay, hydrated water is present. Anhydrous means there is no water. Okay, no water. So, the gas which is coming out here is a dry HCl gas. So, the dry HCl gas cannot react with a dry blue litmus paper. That is why we learnt here. So, we need some water. That is why we are moist the blue litmus paper. So, once it is moistured, they react, hydrochloric acid react with that moist litmus paper and then changes and they form acidic. Okay, and it shows the acidic character, that means H plus ion character, and that is why they are changing the color. Okay, one thing I want to tell you here, note to the teacher. This is note to the teacher is written, but is not only for the teacher, it is also for the students. If the climate is humid, if we are doing this experiment in a classroom where you can find the climate is humid, a rainy season or something, you will have to pass the gas produced through a guard tube. Okay, guard tube is somewhat like this. You can see the picture which is given in your book, page number 23, figure 2.4. Yes, guard tube. What this guard tube is containing? It containing calcium chloride. Okay, where you have heard this word calcium chloride? If you have not heard this word, I can give an example. You have already heard this. You can, if you have watched the movie Happy New Year, where Shah Rukh Khan was acting in that movie, you all know that they are stealing the diamonds in the Shalimar. Remember that at the last scene, once all these water comes and they steal all these diamonds, what Shah Rukh Khan say that you put calcium chloride everywhere. You know why he is telling? Because calcium chloride has the property to absorb water. So that means whatever moisture is there, this calcium chloride can absorb it. Okay, if we are doing this experiment in an humid temperature, and that is why we are using this guard tube, because guard tube containing calcium chloride, it absorbs all the all the moisture, so it changes, always keeps the gas dry. Then we can use this wet moist blue litmus paper, and then we can do the test. Okay, will you all understand this? Yes. Okay, we have seen the acid gives hydronium ions or H plus aqueous ions in water. Okay, what happens when base is dissolved in water? Okay, that is what we are going to learn here. When dissolved in water, it produces again an ion. That means it produces an OH negative ion. That means hydroxide ions. Always you keep it in your mind, when an acid react with water, it produces hydronium ion or H plus ions. H plus or H3O plus ions. But always when a base react with water, it produces always hydroxide ions, OH negative ions. Turn to your page to 24, and you can see some more examples also given here. When potassium hydroxide mixed with water, it produces K plus and OH negative ions, hydroxide ions. Magnesium hydroxide mixed with water produce OH negative ions. So whenever a base always generate OH negative ions in water. When it mixed with water, it always produce OH negative ion. But bases which are soluble in water are called alkalis. Okay, I am keep on reminding this thing because it's very important. So do you know? You can read this. All bases do not dissolve in water. So only those which can dissolve in water are said to be alkalis. The rest of them are all not alkalis. Okay. So as we know that acid always have H plus ions and base always have an OH negative ions, hydroxide ion. When acid and base react with each other, they produce salt and water. So this is one of the neutralization reaction. When acid react with base, it gives salt and water. To do this, we have an experiment. Yes, hydrochloric acid react with sodium hydroxide. Hydrochloric acid is an acid, base sodium hydroxide react together, it forms sodium chloride, that is a salt, and then remaining is water. Clear? So this H plus and OH negative ions combine to form water molecules, right? So let us you can involve when water is mixed with acid and base. Okay, what we are going to see now is what is involved when water is mixed with acid or a base. To understand this, we have an activity here 2.10. Again, you have to read this carefully, and also you have to look at this sign. This sign is always given in the bottles, the labels of acids and bases, strong acid and strong acid base. You can see this label, and this sign represents that means you need to take cautious, that means you need to be very cautious on using the solution. Okay, what is this activity talks about? you should take a 10 ml of water in a beaker and then add a few drops of concentrated sulfuric acid and then swill the beaker. That means you have to mix it. And then after once it mixed properly, you have to touch the bottom of the beaker. What you feel? You feel that it produces heat energy, so you feel warm. Same thing you can do for with sodium hydroxide also. Here we have used sulfuric acid. You can use sodium hydroxide also. There also you can see the beakers, the base of the beaker turned into hot. That means it become warm. It shows that both acid, strong acid and strong base, when it mixed with water, they produce heat energy. That means they are exothermic in nature. Okay. The process involving acid and a base in water is highly exothermic one. But there is a question arises, how to mix this? Whenever you are mixing an acid into a, or you are diluting it or adding some water, you need to be very careful. So, care must be taken while mixing concentrated nitric acid and sulfuric acid with water. Acid must always be added slowly to water. So, you need to add acid into the water. That is the very important rule. If you add differently, that means taking the acid and if you pour water into it, it's just splash out and it causes burns, and it is really an extreme, and it causes lots of problems. So you should not do that. The glass container may also break sometimes because it produces enough amount of heat energy. So you need to be careful both for concentrated sulfuric acid and also for concentrated sodium hydroxide. Okay, whenever we are mixing an acid and a base or with water, what actually happens results in decrease in the concentration. So if I am taking a concentrated acid or a concentrated base, if I am adding that acid or a base into a water, what happens? The concentration of this H plus ion in an acid or OH negative ion in a base, they start to decrease. So you won't have that much concentration. That process is said to be dilution. Okay, diluting. This is what diluting. That means taking a concentrated acid or a concentrated base and then adding that into the water. So what happened? It always decreases the concentration of acid or a base. Clear? So this is what the topic we have learned today. And there are some more questions which is given on page number 25, and I want you to go through that question, and you can also find the answer by yourself, but I made a question and an answer. You can go through that also. Okay, let's move little faster and go through this question and an answer. Okay, first question. Why do hydrochloric acid, nitric acid show acidic character in aqueous solution, while solution of compounds like alcohol and glucose do not show acidic character? Okay, yesterday we did this. Why? The reason is hydrochloric acid and nitric acid, that means acids, they always release H plus ions, and that is why, yes, they that is why they shows an acidic character, right? Why do hydrochloric show acidic character, and why the alcohol and they are not showing acidic character? Because only acids they have producing H plus ions, but these two, alcohols and glucose, they never produce these H plus ions. Second question, why does an aqueous solution of an acid conduct electricity? And this is also, you all know that, because presence of ions in acids, that means they have H plus ions, right? They produce ions, that is the reason they conduct electricity. Third question, Why does dry hydrochloric acid gas not changes the color of dry litmus paper? Yes, today only we learned that always hydrogen ions are produced, that means H plus ions are produced only when dilute hydrochloric acid gas comes in contact with the water. Unless they are not mixing with the water, you cannot see H plus ion. Right, then next question. While diluting an acid, why it is recommended that acid should be added to the water and not water to be acid? The reason is, if you add water to acid, what happened? The acid is on the top. So there's a bulk sprout comes out. So there is a the acid could not stand there. So what happened? They splash out. But when acid is added to a water, it is become being an heavier, it goes down and settle at the bottom, and water being a bulk, there is no sprouting takes place. Next, how is the concentration of hydronium ion affect when a solution of acid is diluted? So if it is a strong acid, they have H plus ions. If keep on adding water into it, okay, affected when a solution of acid is diluted. If I keep on adding water into this solution, or if I am adding acid into the water continuously, so high H3O plus ions, concentration of this H plus ion or H3O plus ions decreases. So after diluted, even you can keep your finger inside that, nothing happens because it is diluted. How is the concentration of hydroxide ions affect when we excess base is dissolved in a solution of sodium hydroxide? If you keep on adding base into a solution, normally what happens? The concentration of OH negative ion increases, keep on increasing. So that is what actually happens. Okay, student, this is the topic we learned, and I hope you will understand that. If you won't understand, please ask me through WhatsApp, and any doubt you can ask me through to my personal number and write a questions. And next class, that means tomorrow, we are going to have a Zoom class. In that, we are going to have a doubt session in acid, base and salt up to what we learned today. That means up to page number 25. Okay, keep your questions with you, and we'll discuss about what we learned from starting to the end of page 25. Okay, thank you and have a nice day.